Right, it is 2:01 PM. We'll call the Village Council of Northport work session meeting to order. Roll call, trustees Harper, Rubel, Cavendish, Cook, Ager, and President McCann are all present, with Dean absent. Let's see, approval of the agenda is our next item. Any amendments or additions, any from the council?
I have one. I would suggest removing this closed session. I haven't gotten forms back,
Okay,
so you just push that to the regular meeting.
okay.
And I know, I think we have a couple of trustees who need to get out of here promptly at 4.
Okay. All right, so any objections to removal of the closed session? So we'll move item 7. All in favor of the agenda as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No, okay, the agenda is set. Item 3 on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public will have up to 5 minutes to address the village council. And I can either by show of hands in person or by unmuting on Zoom can recognize you and you can speak for 5 minutes. Go ahead, and your name and address for the record.
Do you want me to stand up or just?
No.
Speak to
Sarah.
the microphone? Okay.
Mean it.
Okay, I'm Sarah Uren. I'm a resident of the village of Suttons Bay, but I'm here representing the Watershed Center, Grand Traverse Bay. I'm the program director there. And I feel like I know most of you, maybe Joe, I think you're a new face to me, but we've done some projects in Northport since I've been at the Watershed Center, which has been a really long time. Smith Street storm drain, and then we did a project here on Naganaba. Some storm free boxes and underground infiltration trench, and then we also did some work on Main Street and Wakazu on the storm drain that empties out by the Salem Club. So we're familiar with Northport. I feel like we have a really good working relationship with the council and then the new village manager. So I also wanted to say that we've worked with various partners on dam removal. So we're here because of the discussion you're having there in your agenda about the dam removal. This is Nate Winkler. He's from CRA. And so their organization has worked on dam removals a lot. We have a lot of combined knowledge. Brett Fussell from the band couldn't be here, but they're also interested in helping as well. So we're available for discussion if you have questions during that thing later on your agenda. But I just want to say we're here to help. We can help if you decide to take the dam out, obviously. So we're in favor of removing the dam. And if you decide to go down that path, we are here to help manage the project, make it as easy as possible for you, help find grant funding, that sort of thing from start to finish, and all the different projects that might go with it. I know at the Watershed Center, we also do a lot of education as part of our role in the watershed. So we can also help you education with the public, educating yourselves on dam removal, that sort of thing. If you'd like to have another public info session, I was just talking with Nate. I think we did one back in 2020 or 2021. It was right around COVID time, I remember. So it was a while ago. I know you were involved with that, Susan. So if you want to have another one of those.
It was 2023, Sarah.
Oh, 23. See,
It was summer of 23.
time flies. You're having fun, I guess.
It was
So-
at golf course.
Okay, so we would be amenable to having another one of those if you would like. We're here to provide our expertise in any way that we can. So with that being said, I'll stay through that part on the agenda, and if you have questions, feel free to ask me or Nate.
Okay, thanks. Any other public comments? Any public comment from Zoom? I don't see anyone unmuting or show of hands. Okay, if there's no other public comment, we'll move on to our liaison reports. Not on the agenda, but.
No,
It's not part of the work session agenda.
That's fine.
Gotcha.
I just was checking because there was some, so I
Okay.
just wanted to be sure. Yeah,
Put it in the May 20.
in the regular one.
meeting.
Yep, that's fine. I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
Missing it back then.
All right, waterfront and marina is first.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, most of the 30-foot, 32-foot bigger piers have been lowered. Apparently, there's 3 of them that won't be lowered on CDOC. They replaced 20 rotted posts so far. They figure they got another 20 to 30 to go either later this fall or next spring. The fuel system is going to be de-winterized and active starting next week. And he's very happy with the staff that he has. He says it looks pretty solid for the summer.
Great. Anything for the waterfront marina liaison?
Thank you. Now all we need is voters.
There are some there.
Next up, we have infrastructure.
I would say if Jared has updates, I know that they've been making progress.
Yeah, well, you see, we're finally getting to that water leak in Naganoba. Water filling station should be starting very soon. I'm pushing the guys. A lot of stuff coming up this time of year, like brush pickup has started again, weekly brush pickup. And then we've got a crew of 3 at the moment. So if one of them's on vacation, we're down to 2 and things come up, it's tough to get to this stuff, but we're really pushing so that we get that filling station in by, farmer's market opening, like it all wrapped up by then. And, I try to keep you up to date on the, projects that are upcoming like Rose Street, and we're on track for that. Should have a bid award coming in June. We're just finishing up on, finalizing the bid documents that we'll publish. And those will be available for at least 30 days or so. And our construction window that we're looking at is mid-August to mid-September, which would be right after Dawn Parade, right before Uncaged. So trying to, because those windows are tough to find. But yeah, I can give any other updates too if you like. Rose Street is, I'm sorry, the 5th Street water line is still in the planning stage right now, where they're finishing up their engineer plans.
One of the things I wondered that I could have mentioned earlier when I talked to you, but I didn't think of it, is if we have so many projects happening this season, if there was a way that like Ellie could make just a little thing that says like infrastructure projects in Northport and like just like the general timeframes of when they might be happening, so that people have an idea.
Sure, yeah, we
Just
can
because I thought
do that.
it's like, I don't think it could hurt, and then people have an
Yeah.
idea that that's coming.
Good
that time
idea.
of year.
Yeah, but those are the 3,
Yeah.
really. So it's
Well,
not.
and I know it's not, I mean, but that's way more than sometimes is happening. So, and it's like some of them are on major roads, so,
Yeah, especially with Rose Street.
yes.
Susan?
This is not infrastructure, but it is related to brush pickup. Can you fill us in on where we are with the, trash pickup plan?
Thank you for asking. We were just able to finalize the estimate from GFL. They actually took us off the schedule because we hadn't done it for a few years. So it took some work to get a response from them and to finalize that. I just signed that the other day, and it was included as a approved part of the budget, and just finalized that. It's June 6th, 7 to 12. We're putting together some notices to get on the website, put on Facebook, get the word out there. Talked to a couple people who have asked, but that's the date. We've got it locked in as of like the other day, June 6th.
I know we had talked previously about there being like limits on what people are putting out. Do we know what those are, or?
That's what Chris and I are gonna meet, and we really wanna firm that up, because we're going off of some of the previous restrictions that the village has had. And we'll do something similar with, for example, the number of tires, whether or not commercial can participate, no. It's residential. Otherwise, those costs will really far exceed.
Well, and I think that the reason I asked is just because I think there's probably gonna be a lot because we haven't done it for a while. And so I feel like people that are participating probably are gonna have large quantities, and so there's limits. I wanna be sure the people who've asked me, I'm
Yeah.
telling them that at the same time.
We're finalizing some of those guidelines right now. So, because I didn't want to publish notice until we have that go along with it. Number of bags, the items and so forth.
This was already budgeted.
Yeah.
I know I voted for the budget, but I'm just gonna ask again, like, I don't see this as a normal, function of I mean, what other municipalities in this county or in municipalities of this population actually do this anymore? The only one I can think of is Shawtytown, maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see this as a legitimate function of local government. We don't have sidewalks that work in this town, and we're gonna spend $20,000 getting rid of other people's crap. And I'm just 100% against it. I just do not think we should be spending money on it.
Then let's,
For the record.
when this comes around, we'll have it as part of the next budget approval.
Yeah, but there's nothing I can do about it now.
Okay, anything else for Jared or infrastructure? Okay. NLTUA, at our last meeting, we elected our new officers. They're, well, re-elected officers, they're the same. Myself as chair, Mike McMillan, vice chair, Bart Conley, secretary, and oh, Jim Root is treasurer. No, other way around. The system analysis capacity study and capital improvement plan, Joni, Jared, and I had a meeting with Jacobs to go over some of the technical stuff, which we had some questions about, and they're going to get back to us. They've responded to some of that, and then they're going to be filling us in on the rest of the questions we had. One of the things we asked them was that they present us, rather than it coming in phases, is that we get it all at once. So we get the report, we get the analysis, and then we get the capital improvement plan all at the same time. So rather than going over it a bunch of different times. I said this yesterday in the leadership team meeting. I want to make it known here in the public meeting, is that during the wet weather event we recently had in the last month, the plant did see some heavy inflows. And they've commented in the past couple of years about that when the snow melts or it rains, they see extra water coming in. And the reason we brought this to your attention is because the system is supposed to be a closed loop. So there's concern that there are either illicit connections, like people have their sump pumps hooked up to the sewer system, and so we're paying to treat clean water. The two least likely would be that there's damage to some pipes, like we had on North Shore a couple of years ago, that we had to replace that 300-foot of pipe because water was infiltrating into that. That's the only section out there on North Shore that had one type of pipe. So yeah, it's just Joni's drafted a letter, and we're going to be sending that out to the homeowners in this ad, and trying to get homeowners that do possibly have their sump pump hooked up to find another way to discharge that water, because when it comes to capacity, that can impact the system. So other than that,
Is there any way to detect them, no, or anything?
well, if people have grinder pumps, they can look and see if there's clean water coming in through there, but there is no way, since we don't have flow meters. So
We have the right to inspect.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going over the rules and regulations to see just what we can do to get in there, check some of those.
I imagine most people don't even realize, right?
It's very possible. Yeah, that's, they would have someone put it in and they would just hook it up,
For sure.
Especially if you bought the property and it was already there, like you probably definitely don't know.
And what is help me understand what the hazard is if too many people have their sump pumps connected and.
That it could be, the system could see an exorbitant amount of inflows, whereas, we're worried about how much capacity is coming into the system now for the
Right.
users. If we have these wet weather events, it can send a lot of,
And why is that bad?
because it overloads the system, what can actually come in.
And the system
And-
could break down?
We're paying to treat clean water.
Right.
It's to treat
Right,
gray
so it
water.
costs more.
Yeah.
Costs more to treat clean water,
And it's-
obviously, but the system wouldn't break down.
No, it's just maxing it out.
No,
Oh, right.
Instead of connections to phones.
Well, it could overflow the pond, and also, this is.
And when you
just-
say pond, you don't mean the mill pond, you
No,
mean.
it's not
Yeah,
treatment.
Right.
There's two of them in use there. I was on the sewer board, but one thing that living on the creek during that event, and this could be my imagination, but I think the ground got so saturated in the filter area, that too much water was coming through and it wasn't being adequately treated because I thought I detected a sewage smell from Northport Creek, which I've never smelled before. So that's the other real risk is if you oversaturate that, it's on a hill and basically it's the water's filtered by ground. It's not that super scientific. And if you run too much water through it, the ground can't do its job. There's too much flow. And so you're going to get less treated water going into Northport Creek. We do not want that.
Okay, well, yeah, I think that whatever we say to the public about this, we need to explain what the consequences are and why they need
Yeah, why
to
it
check.
matters.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for the LLCUA? If not, we'll move on to our discussion items. The first discussion item A is the 7th Street, High Street parcel concepts. Some housing workshop follow-up and then sort of what next steps we want to take. Has everybody had a chance? Obviously, they were in the packet. Take a look at them. They're on display here. For those that attended the meeting, it was very informational and I thought run very well. It was more of a meet and greet, walk around and talk to people rather than throw a bunch of information at them. It seems like it was digested a little bit better by the public. Jared and I were at the table with the drawings for about a half an hour and fielded some, questions and comments from members of the public and, it seemed to be mostly positive from what they could see that we've provided them with. So, Jared, anything on the follow-up since you had that meeting with Barb and CV?
The township put together, they had the posters up with questions for people and they wanted them to have sticky notes and answer them. They've compiled all the responses that they got. We talked about the other day, the range of comments. I won't get into all of them, but they're going to publish those comments on their website. I'll make sure that we share those so you can see what the comments were from people. They're kind of what you would expect from a lot of these comments. I think one of the things that seemed to me that came up repeatedly on those sticky comments was, how do people who make $20 an hour afford anything? And it's such like, how do you answer that? It's like, oh, wow, but that goes to show you that's where a lot of people are coming from when they think about this, because so many jobs in the service industry pay at that level. And it's really hard to build anything to achieve that kind of affordability. So that was just kind of one of the things that came through. I'd be happy to talk about any of the comments. I just summarized what we heard. There was some, I think, I was really encouraged hearing that this modular manufacturer is able to build a 225 a square foot. I think that's very difficult to replicate. If you get around 300 a square foot, that would be fantastic. And I think you could definitely achieve attainable in Northport, including for these kind of designs, which is based on a modular format. So that was encouraging.
Yeah, the builder we talked to had just built something for somebody who works for Housing North, and he provided us with some pictures at the meeting and kind of showed us. And
Yeah.
Very attractive build, one level.
Yeah.
I mean, would fit in any neighborhood in Northport.
Yeah. It's a remarkable square footage per square foot price. If he's able to get it at
What's his
225.
company called?
Vetrano Homes,
Vitron?
VET. I think it's TTRAINO. I might be misspelling that slightly.
Okay.
Vetrano.
Yeah, you said the place is in Cadillac, but he's from downstate.
Yeah. I think it'd be very tough to replicate 225 a square foot. I don't think that the renderings illustrate something that you could achieve at 225 a square foot. But I think it's really encouraging that he represents that as something they are able to achieve. So even if the costs were slightly more, like I say at 300, it's good to hear. And there are other developers, I think, that could do something similar with this type of rendering.
Did you say he only does one story?
Yeah, that's what he showed us. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know, he's also not, I don't, as I understand it, he's not the builder, he manufactures and then partners with builders. He manufactures the basically the structure.
So they look basically like any other modular, pretty much.
It, I would call it kind of, this like container look that you see in
Oh,
some
I
of the
like
modular,
Okay.
in some of the modular design that's being, this is not like the older modulars. A lot of people, including myself, when I think of modular,
Yeah.
I think of something that I wouldn't want to buy.
Well, I own one, thanks.
Well, let me say why, because often some of these types of structures have not appreciated as much.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why I say, as opposed to stick built. That's sort
Well,
of
everything on
classic.
7th Street is pretty much, I shouldn't say everything, but 7th Street is more or less, those are all prefabs.
Yeah,
And so people, saying, fitting in with the neighborhood, I think we can do better than that. So
it
was-
before I
it was
put my
not-
foot in my mouth too much, I just want to say that the new kind of modular
yeah,
is really much, much better than it was, 30 years ago. Or more, or whatever that time frame is. It seems like it's really much better quality. And that's what helps keep the cost down, so you can achieve an attainable price range.
So just to be sure, these 7th Street renderings, right, those are modular.
That is based on that, yeah.
no, it is.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Oh, I didn't know, that's really cool.
This is prefabbed in a box. They bring it on a truck and take a crane and put it on top of
Okay.
the cement foundation.
Somebody pointed out to me that there's a
Yeah, I know,
the chair's $1,000.
Yeah, it's a Herman Miller each.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, probably not the best choice.
I want to focus on, what, Jared has described as the assumed agreement that we would put into an RFP. And it's at the bottom of, page 1. Oh, no, it's not at the bottom of page 1.
It is.
It's in the middle of page 3, the summary recommendation,
Okay,
right?
yeah, I start on page 1 talking about the assumed agreement, and thank you for bringing that up, because I could be wrong. This is what I've taken away from all of our discussions recently.
Right.
If I'm not describing the consensus well, please let me know. But I think there are also a number of additional issues that we really need to hone in on before you think about finalizing an RFP.
And they're not in your summary?
No, I started with assumed agreement, right? So that there's a 6-unit multifamily on High Street, 8-unit clustered residential on 7th, eliminate unit 9, that one that was on the far east side of the property, and the access drive to from North Shore, preserve the wooded buffer along North Shore, and then the village will assist with the developer obtaining a brownfield redevelopment plan. The village would not do that, we would assist. And along with the county's consultant, which is Fishbeck, and then the village would support development through incentives, either a pilot or attainable housing facilities exemption. The development will provide attainable housing generally defined as serving households at or below 120% of AMI. And short-term rentals will not be permitted. There's a deed restriction for that. The village will require performance guarantees, including a performance bond or equivalent security and a reverter provision, so that if construction does not occur within an agreed time frame, the ownership will revert back to the village, and the developer will be expected to proceed within a reasonable time frame. Okay, that's assumed,
Right.
for my part, as the
I
part of the agreement.
I myself support all of that, except, I'm not sure about funding park improvements on the northern 4.7 acre parcel. I don't think we want to get into that at this point.
Why not?
Why not just leave it the way it is?
Yeah, I've kind of listened to that.
For me, the reason why is because if it's supposed to be for public recreation and it's a public park. I realize right now there's not necessarily people hiking that at all, but that's because there isn't anything there and if we were to put that there, then it allows for public enjoyment of it.
Why can't we do that later?
I agree.
Because right now there's gonna be funding from Brownfield and different things, so it could be tied in and that can make it more available and like opportunity to include. Now versus later, that would have to just come from the budget.
If I can,
Yeah, go ahead.
I challenge anyone to go in there in July. I just, you can put in a trail or whatever, but you're
I've
never,
been in there in July.
you run for your life.
Oh my God.
I mean,
It's insane.
it's, you'll get malaria in 5 seconds.
You don't want to go in there
You
right
do
now.
not want to be in those
Oh,
woods.
yeah.
Unless the ground is frozen, literally. And there's ticks. And there's just, it's a good place to leave in its natural state. It is not a good place for recreation, and it's only a few acres. Put a trail through there, it's not much of a walk. We've got the LSP, we've got our trails up here. I don't like the idea of turning that into a public access park. I think I'll gain some support from the North Shore group from this. I think it should stay how it is. That's the part that we protected. And, future generations feel the need to put in trails or some kind of public access. That's fine. But as of right now, I do not see the demand or the practicality of anybody ever using that unless they're crazy. I mean, it's like the Amazon. I mean, you get swarmed in seconds. So, I think
It's a bog.
we should leave, yeah, it's a wetland, and that's what happens in wetlands. That's the natural, progression, and that's why we stay out of there. So I think we should leave it out of the plan, personally. I mean,
It's extremely wet right now.
yeah. It's gonna be a rough spring for anybody trying to go in there. So, yeah. I don't know why it's in, I think we should leave it out of the discussion. Leave it natural.
There are several eligible activities that are associated with a potential development on this site. And I use that term eligible activities because that's what the Brownfield statute authorizes a developer or a local unit of government to use tax increment financing to fund. Those would be the cost of infrastructure improvements on site, water and sewer and on the site. Another eligible activity would be recreational improvements, including on the wooded area, or also cleaning up any contamination that's on the site. So those would be 3 eligible activities that are all relevant to the project. And that's why I've brought these issues up in terms of how do you incorporate those into what the developer can pursue through a brownfield redevelopment plan, and to what extent do you require that they do that? If that's the consensus that a park is not included, so be it. Then but there are other eligible activities, and we need to, to present that to a developer. I think you need to say, this is what you're going to be required to include with the brownfield redevelopment plan.
I mean, can we put park benches, or can we put, I don't know, is there room for a basketball court, or?
No, the whole point of that is.
Yeah,
what's
we want
the-
to-
No, I don't mean on the backland, I mean on the front part.
I think we're using every inch of that for the house.
Okay.
Well, there is a significant common area.
Yeah,
That's on the front part of the portion in the concept plans. That could be retained by the village. It could be made open to the public. I mean, that's an option. You could also just require that the developer improve it a certain way. I think buffering maybe, or just native landscaping, things of that nature. There's several options. And that's not clearly defined in the concept plan. It's just left as a common area or open space.
Yeah, I think that's great to make a good common area, but I'd leave the back land alone. I don't know how to.
well, the other thing is anything you do in terms of inviting the public in there, you're gonna have to maintain it. That means DPW hours, it's just, there's costs going down the line, whereas not touching it, means not touching it. some kind of landscaped border from the wooded area. That would be, I think that would be money well spent, like, you know, a hedge or something, or I don't know, some kind of
Yeah. Along the street.
delineation, yeah, or maybe, yeah, something, but I'm thinking out loud, so that's just not a good idea. So, but anyway, that's all I would do. I just don't think putting trails in that area is a good idea for anybody.
I think once they walked it once, they wouldn't do it again.
Right, yeah, and it, like I said, it's anything we do, then we have to maintain it. And so, and there's liability, you know, you're inviting people in for trip and fall. I don't know, I just leave it alone. Nature's great.
Laura, getting into.
Yeah, I mean, I hear all of you. I have been listening to public that has wanted us to consider putting trails there for 3 years. So I disagree. I think the Naganava Trail also is very wet and has a lot of mosquitoes, and it's there and used frequently. So I think just discounting it out of turn is interesting, I guess. I don't agree, especially because our master plan says we want to continue to improve our recreational areas and allow access and improve ADA access. That's why the suggestion was to consider having it be a handicap accessible trail, but obviously I am very outvoted here. But I just want to say that, that I still think that there would be some value in including it, because just because they outline that doesn't mean it would have to be executed as part of the plan, I don't feel. Another question that I have that isn't related to that, but is just with the RFP. So when this is being sent out, do people have to bid on both High Street and 7th Street, or is it one or the other, or it's if they can do both, or that's just my question. What are they required to do both at the same time, and we're just committing and saying we want both done at the same time, or no?
Excellent question. That was not one of the items that I addressed specifically. I think that's a great question. I didn't address that in my assumed agreement either. I had not really, I guess as we've been moving along, I sort of assumed myself that it would be better to combine them and do it as one. It's hard enough, I think, to get developers interested in doing smaller scale development like this. If you had a total of 14 units, I mean, a lot of developers, regionally speaking, they're interested in doing 50, 100 plus unit developments. And so you narrow the pool of interested developers when you have a small project. So I think having it for both makes the most sense, but that it could be done differently.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think that could be possible, but I wouldn't want someone to not bid it because they think that one or the other site is less possible. I just didn't know if there's a way to word it that, like, ideally we want both projects to be included and you're bidding both. But if for some reason you think that High Street's not feasible or not profitable for you, or 7th Street isn't, then you can also just bid one for us and send it back.
Absolutely.
So
Okay. We can structure the RFP that way.
I think it'd be a good idea.
I just wouldn't want to lose something. I mean, and I realize probably that's, from what you're saying, not going to be the issue. I just want to be sure that we aren't losing possible bids because people have.
You can word it in a preferential way, right? So we prefer,
Yes.
right, both.
Yeah.
But individual bids on separate projects are welcome too.
And we're a ways away from. The way I framed this, I said we're close because we're a lot closer to we've been in terms of actually publishing an RFP. But there's still some work to do. That's why we have it on the work session so that we can start talking about it. And I wouldn't want to publish an RFP until we take more time to really think through these issues. I want to talk to some developers in the area to get their feedback, to see what they're interested in seeing in the RFP, so that we know we're going to get a strong response. So I don't think this is going to be ready in the next few weeks.
Sure, yeah, we're not in a race to get this out there.
Yeah.
It's not a competition between the township and the village, I think.
Well,
That's what I want to ask about. I mean, because they already issued their RFP, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
they started writing theirs like 3 months ago.
Yeah, and they've just gone about it a different way.
Okay, and
I don't
I
have to
just
go
worry
by how
that,
they went about it. They
I
kind of
worry-
threw it out there and said, well, we'll fix it as the problems come, and it's an incredibly flawed document.
oh, I just worried that, you know, somebody would glom onto their project and ours
It's
would
not us.
be in the shadows.
They're different scope.
Okay, I don't know, but we'll talk later.
Yeah.
Okay,
Anything else from the council? Questions for Jared, or, obviously this is still a work in progress, I think. Probably if anyone has anything that they would like to see included in the RFP or, some of these assumed things, they could reach out to him directly as they sort of come to us.
Could we go through just a couple of these just real quickly?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've laid out some options, like in terms of the value. Right, that can be a bit of a sticky issue. And so I'm trying to simplify it
Mhm.
with three options. Nominal value, right, lower value. Nominal value being, dollar,
What
yeah, a
page?
dollar.
What
I'm
page?
on page 2 of my memo.
okay, oh, so you're.
Where I'm
starting
talking
from the
about
top.
these key policy
Okay.
decisions.
Right,
You can negotiate it for something less than market value. Or sell at market value. And I recommended nominal value because I think that's a really key part of the
Agreed. Does
affordability.
anybody
It's one of the
disagree
few
with
things,
Unless
Okay.
somebody wants to buy it from the village and then donate it to the builders,
right? Okay, so 10-year model,
The leadership team has stuff too.
I think your recommendation is correct.
you're okay with that? So
Yeah.
High Street would be rental. 7th Street, you could allow some for sale units, allow the developer that flexibility.
Yeah, as long as most of the units are,
So you'd be talking developer would retain ownership and rent to the public, and
Yeah.
developer managed.
Yes,
I'm in favor of that on High Street. I'm not such a fan of that on 7th. Because it is a different market niche, and, I think for some of the reasons, in Vicky Slott's letter, as a landlord myself, I would rather see those all be privately owned and not, managed by a company, especially one that's not around here. So, maybe they could have a local, but the private ownership, upkeep of the house stuff, it's gonna have a better, I don't know if I'm being classist, but people tend to take care of stuff better when they own it. And, I just see that as a fairly sensitive area still. I know we're doing this, but it's still gonna be on the high end of attainable. And it's in a higher end area of town. I would like to see those all be sold outright. And I don't really think retaining them for rental is gonna be the right place in that area. We're gonna have that at the recycle center if that happens, which I hope does. And we could offer it on High Street, but I just don't think 7th Street is the right spot for that.
I'm confused.
My personal opinion.
Do you, would that, in your opinion, eliminate the two buildings as duplexes and those would then become just the single family? Because that was, the 1 through 4 were 1,000 square foot, single family unit, buildings 5 and 6 were, 2 duplexes.
So you can, I don't know what the legal classification is in Michigan, but in Oregon, when you had a duplex and each side was privately owned, you would reclassify them as townhouses, attached townhouses, so
Okay.
that you would have separate owners for each side.
Okay.
And I think there's something like that in Michigan. So I don't think you can still keep them as a duplex type structure, but it would have a different legal classification. Or maybe in Michigan, you can own half a duplex. I don't know, but that's just a legal
Okay.
maneuver, but it doesn't really affect the structure.
And if we did that, it would provide some different size
Yeah.
units in that area. So
Yeah.
somebody who wants less than 1,000 and doesn't want a parking spot underneath the house, do that.
here, rental on High Street, go with the for sale model.
Me speaking, I'm not speaking.
Right, no, yeah, no, I understand that.
I concur, I concur. I
So
think,
repeat what you said, because I'm struggling to are we talking about the distinction between renting and owning?
yes.
Well, I
That's
think,
what we're talking.
I think in the 7th Street area, I don't know, call it proposal.
You think all those should?
I think those should all be retail.
Owned.
They should all be sold as retail, and not retained by the developer and managed. by a third
But,
party.
but I think all of these, everything we're talking about is managed.
No,
Because,
no,
because,
Sorry. Go ahead.
what we talked about at this session was that, you know, there were certain limits. If you wanted to resell your home, there were certain limits on how much you could keep.
oh, in that manner, yeah, but you still own it. Like the Reach, okay, look at the Reach houses.
Right,
That
right, right.
There are deed restrictions on resale that are in covenants that are held by,
Okay.
you know, that were transferred because Reach
Okay,
dissolved, those
okay,
got
okay.
transferred.
I think I'm with us now.
Yeah, so you own it and you can sell it, but you can't just sell it to anyone. for
Right,
any
right,
amount.
okay.
It's gotta stay attainable.
Well,
Okay.
that's,
After the
well,
sale.
that's,
Right.
if you look
Right.
at what
That's
they
the hard
did,
part.
and this is not rocket science, this has been done, and people are very worried about these, you know, what's to prevent this, what's to prevent that? We're not inventing something new here. This has been done all over the country. There's legal stuff that can guarantee the results we want, without writing it ourselves. I mean, you can copy and paste all this stuff.
Okay, I'm with you. So you're saying all ownership on Seventh Street, all rental on High Street?
Well,
That's what you'd like.
But, I didn't, I said I'm ambivalent on High Street. I think that should be up to the developer,
Oh,
but Seventh Street, I think everything should be sold and privately owned with restrictions. So that they can't turn around and sell it the next day for $500,000, you know, it's like, which is, people are so worried about people doing that or gaming the system somehow, but this has been done and lawyers know how to do this so that the system will not be gamed. And so the public should rest easy on that. We can make it do what we want to do by selling it privately and not losing total control. In terms of if a developer wants to develop High Street and wants to retain ownership and then, you know, manage it or, you know, and become a leasing company, which a lot of them do, that I'm fine up there. I mean, that's because we need some of that. That's what's going to be 100% of the recycle center. That's not going to be privately owned as far as I know.
No,
That's going to be, one company is going to own the whole thing, all 28 units or whatever it is, and they are going to manage and lease and rent and vet and do all the fun stuff of finding tenants and kicking tenants out and all that. That will be available elsewhere. That will be available at the recycle center. I'm assuming everything is going to happen. You know, I'm an optimist. I don't think that's what we want for 7th Street.
Laura, anything to?
Yeah, I think I very much feel that High Street should be apartments. Because I feel that they can be apartments and you are running into people's opinions that renters are somehow not as responsible with their home. The feedback from the housing, as you just said, is that what do people who are $20 an hour supposed to do? We really need apartments. Like, that was an enormous amount of the feedback. And so while I also hope that and believe that the township is going to move forward, but I think that there isn't any reason why we shouldn't also be trying to help achieve more of that. And I also do agree that people don't need to be, in my opinions, quite so concerned about the houses becoming very expensive, because it is something that is being done. And it's being done in our community.
Mhm.
I mean, like, we have homes within the village that are that. So I think that if we can, I don't agree that they necessarily all need to be purchased. I understand where you're coming from, but I think that there could be some that could be rentals and then that could just be more additional help for workforce housing, for people in our community, which we very much need.
the question, is there rent control? I mean, so the developer can rent.
I thought you meant now.
No, I'm just
There's a
saying,
question for Jared.
how do you, I mean, Jared, you know, how do you determine that the rent is both attainable, but nonetheless profitable for the developer?
Well, you can't necessarily guarantee profitability, but you can
Right.
limit affordability. And in order to qualify as attainable, it has to be no more than 30% of the gross income for the tenants.
Okay, so I understand that. So the question is, can you contractually require that the developer not charge more than?
That is exactly the kind of agreement that we would have in place.
Okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
so they have to guarantee affordability.
Because the
And-
market is no longer.
Exactly, and in order to be eligible for the incentives, either a pilot or an attainable housing facilities exemption, they would have to document that, prove that on an annual basis.
Okay, great.
So I'm hearing some mixed feedback on Seventh. I just looked at the area median income figures that were just published by Mishta for that as of May 1st, 2026. 120% of the area median income for a one person household is over $100,000. It's $102,600
For a one person
for
household
one person.
It's how much did you say?
$102,600.
is 120.
120%. AMI is 85.5.
Okay.
A family of four was, I think, $146,000 at 120%. Meaning you can make $146,000 as a four person household and qualify for attainable housing. That's market rate just about anywhere in the state of Michigan when you start looking at rents. So to me, if that's the criteria, the rental could be quite a nice rental unit.
Right.
And I think some people do prefer renting. They may be able to afford home ownership, but they choose not to because of where they're at in life. You know, people, you know, maybe not staying in one place for very long, all sorts of different reasons. So I that's why I proposed a hybrid approach for 7th Street and kind of let the developer decide based on their market analysis what would work best for them with the mix.
You're close to 20,000 a month at that for the one person.
Yes, you are.
That's a lot.
Exactly.
So that was the gentleman from Edwin Allen Edwin Home.
Yeah.
Who's got a big place over on East Bay. I don't know how many units he said they got. But he said their like affordable rentals start at like $2,500 a month. Wasn't that right? But
Yes.
2-bedroom.
That is.
I mean, so I mean,
So what
Yeah,
is the aim
it's-
here?
the numbers
If
up there.
that is the
Yeah.
target price, what is the aim here? Is this for affordable housing still? Is this like missing middle? What is the, it seems
I think that's what
extraordinarily high.
Jared just said is that, you know, even at these, what I would consider a really good living wage for Northern Michigan, you still fit that affordability category. And then, you know, is that where we're targeting this 80 to 120, which is what we've sort of talked about? And we're sort of relying on the township to take care of that, you know, that lower end, that 50 to 30, that if they get, you know, I mean, Homestretch seems to fit that model
Yeah.
a little bit.
No, we are relying on the
That's-
township to pull this off, you know, which is a wing and a prayer, but like I said, I'm an optimist, that's the market, but even at those numbers. There is a void in the retail market that you cannot buy anything. You know, so you're buying power, I'm not up to date on numbers, but with the numbers you said. You can't buy anything for $300,000 in this, it's either, you know, a total do-over, falling down.
Scraper.
Yeah, or you're at, you know, 475. I mean. It's that void in the market needs to be filled, and that's what I see the mission for 7th Street to be, is to fill a void in the retail market. I look at the other locations to try to address the other problems, the lower end of the scale, which we do have. But if they're gonna do 20+ units at the recycle center, I mean, how many dishwashers do we have in this town? I mean, I don't mean it like that, but I mean, we're almost gonna be resplendent in the lower end, and we really need to fill this void in the retail market. This is me talking, not as an expert, just my gut feeling. I have to sign a check. But yeah, that's, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just real quickly, sorry. The next part of this conversation that I think is important is not just the rental ownership, but also the mix. If you allow some market rate or if you target a certain AMI. Just want to put that out there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I do know, and again, like, I don't necessarily disagree with things being said, but I do know realtors in the area who very much have said to me after the housing summit, who attended, that they really feel that we need to focus on rental as much as we can. And I do know people who have been selling some of these attainable houses, and it was not as easy as you might think. People were either just over the amount or they weren't making enough to be able to do it. So I think the market for that and people who, I don't know, I mean, I just think that there's a reason why it hasn't been solved yet. And I just think flooding a whole bunch more, when the advice and feedback that I'm hearing is rentals, is why, to me, I just really think that that's important, that we help with, because there is some small base of evidence on how these are going to do. And when you look at that, there of course has been quite a challenge, just even for those.
Susan,
I mean, I guess my instinct is to let potential developers figure out on
Yes.
7th Street, you know, whether what they need.
I agree,
build it.
but I think we can also put limits, like if the developer wants to retain, 20% of the project for rental, they can, but don't have to, and that would be up to them. But it wouldn't be a disqualifying, like
Yeah,
the developer's
so-
like, well, I can do this, but I wanna hang on to 2 of them to try to make that,
Yeah,
rent
yeah.
out for a few years, try to make back, my margin. That I'm okay with that and leave it up to the developer, but I don't want to disqualify a developer says, no, I don't wanna do any rental. And for us to say, no, then we don't want you. Because
No, I
he wants to
agree.
sell them all right away, that's fine, we should let him sell them all right away if he wants to. If they
Yeah,
want to
as
hold
long
on to
as
2.
As long as we're staying with the AMI limits. you
Yeah,
know,
of course, that's all in that's all. in
Right,
the
right,
timeframe.
yeah.
So, I'm with you on that, if we're on the same page there, and maybe you would agree with that too.
I agree with that.
Okay,
Totally. I just want to be sure
There's
that like,
consensus.
because I do realize part of the reason why there isn't rentals too is because it's very hard to make that something that anybody wants to do. But that's why I want to encourage as much as we can that is what we would like to see. In as many places as it's feasible.
Okay, it sounds like we have an opportunity for a little more, to get a little smarter on this too, to see what the developers say
Yeah.
about what the real feasibility is dependent upon. And on the rental versus the sale, once you sell, that's a one-way street, right? So think about building in some optionality that says, well, okay, maybe they need to rent for a certain period of time. Because you can rent for whatever fixed period you want and then sell. So you might be able to feather your way into a more economically desirable position with the developer by doing a hybrid approach.
Yeah, that's what I'm then
I
thinking
can
too.
see that, yep, I agree.
Okay, well, I think that there's some really good feedback, and you can build the scoring into this too and say, we're gonna weight this. If you're able to provide more of this, then you're gonna have better score. There's some way that you can provide flexibility within the RFP.
Right.
Give a little bit of an incentive. But I think that's good. I don't want to belabor the issue too much, but those are some critical aspects of this is the 10-year model, the affordability mix, if you allow for market rate at all, because that can really help offset the other costs and make more units more, the other units more affordable by allowing even, let's say, 2 out of 8 units to be market rate. Right? And then you may be able to target lower AMI on the others. So I don't think we're gonna be able to solve that all right now, but these are the things that are gonna, I think, need to be pinned down to the best extent that we can, the RFP.
A lot of work, thanks, Jared.
if there's nothing else on the 2 property concepts and discussion we've had on that, we can move on to the West Street property appraisal. The appraisal was in the packet. Had it for a little while, but we haven't had the appropriate time to discuss it, so it seems like now's the time.
I switched around my memo too. If you're looking at jumps from 5A to 5C, and then 5B, So if you're paying attention to my memo,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have West Street property appraisal in there, but it's after the dam
right.
issue. Okay, it's on page 4. And sorry to interrupt you, Chris.
no, that's, I was just gonna say, though, if everybody's had a chance to look at it and read your memos, if there's any comments or discussion on what Jared presented.
Well, when this was discussed last time, there was some thought that the village is not really doing anything with the land. Larry Mobby came and talked and said that the excavation costs were too much to make it a possible site for attainable housing. And there was some idea about considering putting it on the market or using it for some other purpose. So that's why we got the appraisal. Came back at 260,000. Because of the topography on the site,
Yeah, but it seems like
Right.
a lot of money.
it,
1.6
yeah, it's 5 buildable lots,
5 lots.
5 buildable lots. They're small lots, 50-foot wide lots in that Hutchinson and plat. But they are 5 buildable lots by our zoning ordinance. I think there's a way, because you can see to the south where they sort of cut into the hillside and been able to build. So it seems to me that they are buildable. But I'd like some direction, and maybe it's do nothing for now. But we haven't talked about it since the last
Yeah.
discussion.
If we were to sell that property for $260,000, would there be any restrictions on how we use that money?
No, it'd go into the general fund.
Have you talked to the builder that built up there and like what the challenges were?
I have not talked to him
Heard it's
personally.
too much, but it is just, I don't want to say it's a mess, but it's.
Well, I think also the slope is a little more severe to the north where the
Yeah,
village
yeah,
lots are
it
as
is.
opposed to where the houses are built. So it's probably more material to be excavated, potentially more, or some engineering that would be involved.
Well, the net is, it's a dead asset right now for the city, right?
Pretty
We're
much.
not gonna do anything with it. And so maybe you should talk to a realtor or whoever and validate what a listing might look like. Because again, it's a dead asset.
Yeah, one of the questions, Jared, or, you know, when we talked about it was, would we consider selling it as one parcel or would there be, could we split it into 2? You know, 2 half-acre lots, if that makes it more marketable. That would be a discussion you have. Yeah, exactly. The realtor would have better information on that, but
Yeah,
I think one of our concerns was that we would sell it for one price. And then the next person would divide it into 5 lots and, you know, I mean, once you sell it, you have control over that.
Well, yeah, you don't wanna look like a fool, have
Yeah.
someone flip it on us and like, what?
Right, yeah, so,
I also think that if we're selling it and it does sell and somebody's gonna build their home and they're not trying to make it attainable, obviously, that's more connections. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
if it's more lots, it's more connections.
yeah,
If
more
we are
connections.
doing the splitting,
It's more supply,
yeah, so,
more housing.
yeah,
More
so to
units.
me, I would be, I mean, obviously, we need to get people who are doing this all the time, you know, realtor opinions and what they think is gonna be the most effective way, I think, but I agree that there isn't some glaring reason to hold on to it because there's not necessarily any obvious use and has not been.
Shit, this is go back to 1941.
We're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so it's been there for 80 years.
I'm really confused.
sure.
Am I confusing the street and High Street?
We're talking about the acre just to the north of the 2 homes on West Street where Christy Fisher and Elizabeth Florida live.
To the west?
Yeah.
Across the road?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's,
No, same side of the street.
Same side as Christie's.
oh, so that's.
Just
Okay,
north,
so
it's
high,
vacant.
okay, so.
Between Christie's and.
I thought we were, okay, all right, I thought we were gonna possibly talk about that for. Yeah, okay.
It's
Okay.
a site that is
Yeah, I know
attainable,
that,
not,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so we're not, they're not the same. Yeah. Never mind. Sorry.
That's okay.
What would be the next steps to selling it?
Well, I mean, we can do a listing for, you know, pretty much right away.
Put up a sign for sale by.
Yeah, yeah.
Facebook.
It's not priorities. You list it. I don't see any reason to it not.
Yeah, and then if we take the money and put it into bonds and at least be making something back from it.
Sure.
Or, yeah, that's what my next question was, it goes into the general fund, or do we
Sinking
build,
fund or
build something, or
decide.
Well, that's a good problem, we'll have it figured
gold
out.
statue of someone?
Like Joe's saying, it's just sitting there.
Yes.
No, I understand
And it's
that.
not appreciated at 5% a year, and if it was in a super safe security, you're getting 5% of the money, then we figure out what to do with it later, that's a high class problem.
I don't know why we haven't sold it before.
It's only been 80 years,
80?
80,
Yeah, well, takes a while.
85.
Never move slowly. Okay.
Well, I'd like to have some conversations with the realtor. There's one working right across the street that I think could provide some input. And then, I can follow up, even if it's not at a meeting, follow up with some more information and, you know, I'd
Only
like-
get a couple opinions, just one. but-
yeah, sure. Yeah, we can. But then, just sort of follow up, let you know, and I'd like to, some formal action before you move forward with the sale.
Let's put it on the agenda for the end of the month then, and as an action item, and I think we got a general consensus about selling.
Might be able to,
Yeah.
by the 21st.
And listing it doesn't mean you sell it, and again, I think there's a lot we don't know, I mean, you don't know until you put it on the market. Right? Full stop.
Start hard. Okay, so it sounds like the manager's got some direction regarding the West Street property. We'll move on to item C, which is the Mill Pond Dam millage. Discussion. Oh, I gotta go back up now to 5C. Again, so the manager's provided some information here.
There's a memo in the packet too. It's not in my agenda summary memo. Just explaining, because I've had the question come up about the village's authority to levy a millage. It's very clear in statute that this authority is there to levy a match for a specific type of public improvement like this, to replace a dam. That would clearly fall within the village's authority, but you would need to take some action in order to place the question on the ballot. And that would preclude, assuming that, let's say the village moved forward with putting the question on the ballot question passed, there was a millage that was authorized to be levied for the purpose of removing the dam. You would preclude the option of,
Removing it or repairing.
excuse me, replacing it. Replacing, I do that too often. But yes, so if you have that millage, yes, we're collecting this millage to replace the dam. You're precluding the option of removing the dam.
True.
Or, okay?
Yeah.
But
For 20 years.
Okay.
Right, for the
Yeah.
life of the millage.
Yeah.
On the other hand, and that's why I brought this issue, because I don't see any other way that the village could realistically fund replacement of the dam. And this also puts the question to a vote, as opposed to the council trying to sort through the various interests that are involved.
Let the
Make a
residents-
decision that way. Exactly. Let the voters decide with their pocket. So that's why I brought it forward. I know how contentious the issue could be, but I would like to think that we could make some progress on it. I think that the decision point has to come at some point. Or it should, I think that's the responsible thing to do.
Well,
I can speak on this for days, but I won't. I'm in favor of putting it on the ballot. I think it's unfortunate that we can't somehow make it township wide. I think it's unfortunate that the village is going to have to bear the entire cost of this asset that is shared, that is used by people way beyond the village limits. I think the chances of it, because of that, the millage is pretty extreme. I mean, $90, a lot of people are gonna not want to do that for financial reasons, and other people won't want to do it for environmental reasons. But in any case, in general, I don't I think the council has a responsibility to make decisions strongly, decisions with consequence on their own without putting everything on a ballot. However, this particular issue that is so, I really don't know at all where the village stands on this, because you get it, the loudest voices aren't necessarily the most in number. And so I think this is one time where I would like to see the council abdicate the responsibility for the decision and leave it up to the voters and say, hey, if you really want this, you got to pay for it.
Exactly.
And I want to give Trustee Cook credit. This was your idea 4 years ago. You wanted to do this, and then I was told by Jim Dyer we couldn't, and now apparently we can. So I'm 100% in favor of. Hugh should get credit for the idea, and I think it's a good one, and I think we should do it. And I'll be on that same ballot. But if it passes, then we will have a responsibility to maintain the pond for most of our lifetimes. And if it does not pass, then we go into gear and we find all the grants and state money and all the federal and everything we can do to make it a beautiful rewilding and get as much money as we can. But I think you gotta put your money where your mouth is. And it is too bad that the village, I think that skews the election in favor of it failing, but for whatever, I guess I get it, but I think this is something that should go to the people and I don't want to make it with this at this table. I really don't want to vote on it. So go ahead.
You don't want the village.
I want to do what I'm 100% with whatever way the people say. If the millage passes, I will do my.
So
if I'm still
you're
around,
agnostic as to whether we keep it, repair it, remove it.
It's a really tough subject because
I'm with you because I don't know either.
Well,
I'm just trying to.
It's a decoration. It's not huge. People have decorative ponds in their backyards. This one's a little bigger, but I don't see it as a giant. And I study biology and ecology. I don't see this as the ecological disaster that people are making it out to be. And I think there is a lot of heritage and history that people want it for sentimental reasons. You're like, if you would do everything by ecological standards, we shouldn't have paved parking lots. That should all be permeable. We shouldn't do a lot. We shouldn't have motorboats that pollute. We shouldn't do a lot of things. This is a small thing that doesn't really pollute on any kind of level compared to what human activity on a daily basis we all do every day. And so I don't see the ecological disaster. I also see the benefits of a cold trout stream. I don't care, but what I do care about is it's going to cost a ton of money to maintain that thing. And I don't think without a millage we have any business, spending $1 million on a $1.5 million a year budget to keep that thing going. Without the millage, it's a done deal. So, but I say let the voters decide, and I will support however it goes. If it passes, I will work my hardest to do what that requires, and if it doesn't, work my hardest to do the other way. I'm not going to express an opinion personally.
Okay, very good.
Susan.
I would hate to see us use $1.5 million of tax dollars from our residents to maintain an old pond that serves no function, no real function. I am stating that out loud. I think it's almost immoral to spend $1.5 million for that for 20 years.
But if the people say that,
Well, if they want to do it, but I'm just saying for myself.
yeah,
It
okay, then we
feels
got to
immoral.
Okay.
Which you can vote that way. if the
I know.
village
It
is on
feels
the ballot.
immoral. I would rather spend,
Let her keep talking.
Yeah.
I would rather spend $1.5 million on sidewalks, on, I don't know, improving the marina, on anything. And plus, I think it is a, what happens in your veins? It's a clot. It's a blood clot in the life of that creek. That means it's not flowing up and down. I'm not sure I'm running for reelection, but I don't care if I'm not reelected, because I've come to feel, I didn't know when I came into this job how I felt about that issue. But I've studied it, I've talked to people, and I have people I love in my life who overlook that pond and want to keep it. But I think it makes no sense for our little village to do that, to maintain it. So I would be, I mean, if it ends up, and I'm also curious what, I mean, I imagine the cost of putting something on the ballot is pretty small. Is that right? It's not gonna cost us much to put this on the ballot. So I think we would need to be, if we vote to put this, or if we decide in another meeting to put this on the ballot, we need to be very clear in educating people what it's gonna cost them and, you know, what the implications are. My calculations, Jared did this thing on average value of homes in the town. The average taxable value is 145, which means people would pay 135 a year for 20 years, which is a total of $2,700 per household over 20 years. But it'll increase, right, with the value of. No, it doesn't.
It will change with the taxable value.
Right, so as your home increases in value, so you'd be paying
Yes, right.
more than, you know, maybe $3,000, maybe $3,500 per average household.
Sorry, what'd you say the average household price was?
Average taxable is 145, 727. I don't know, I would be ready to vote to remove the dam. I'm in that spot, but if nobody else is,
Well,
I'm ready to vote to put it on the ballot.
so you're okay with putting it on the ballot?
Yes,
It sounds like you almost want to keep it off the ballot and then we just vote to, and you
well,
to get rid of it. All right, well,
Yes, I think.
yeah,
So this underscores what Will had said in a meeting or two ago, and, you know, what is our mandate? Do we represent only the voters, or do we represent all the taxpayers? Because 2/3 of the tax revenue in this village comes from people who don't vote. Right, so the people who
Correct.
aren't voting are picking up 2/3 of the tab. And
that's a good point.
right, that's tough.
That's a good point.
yeah, I didn't really think of that. That's,
Yeah, and you had those,
Yeah.
some numbers on.
I'm slightly loose with those numbers, but that's,
No, you're in the ballpark.
yeah.
You know, there's these outliers in the community, right? If you look at the, like, say, top, this is one of the things I shared with Susan. I just started putting this together, so I don't really have, it's not really like in a finished version, but if you just look at the like lowest 10% of taxable values, the median is around 25,000 for taxable value on residential property, just residential.
Yeah.
The top 10% is about $550,000. Because, and you see this, right? You can see a very modest home in different parts of towns, and then you have $1 million lakefront homes, right? So the differential impact of a millage is really significant. And there's also a question about seasonality. Some people who have the highest priced homes are seasonal residents and unlikely or less likely to vote. So there is kind of
They're
a,
probably not registered. Right, perhaps they're downstate or wherever, and
So
they're not registered voters.
it's a really unique dynamic when it comes to that kind of thing. And then remember also that commercial properties pay the millage, but don't necessarily have representation to vote. So, you know, the millage question isn't just about someone who lives in Northport, right? Like however you define that.
Well, again, to Will's point, who are our constituents?
Yeah.
surprised I made that one. Because now my head's spinning a little.
You had your hand up?
Yeah, so I just was gonna disagree with everything Susan has said. Obviously, you didn't grow up in this area. There's a sentimental value that I have to state fiercely. And I just wanna see it on the ballot, let the residents vote. And like I'm with Will, if it goes down, it goes down, and then we go the other way, but until that happens.
Well, as I said to you, I'm willing to vote to put it on the ballot. But I wanted to state up front that I would be, I would be that vote. I also want to remind people that as a village, we have survived after some big losses. We lost our waterfront. We lost the fishing and everything that happened on that waterfront before the marina was put. We lost what I understand was a beloved tree in the middle of town that fell down in a storm. We lost a beloved grocery store that burned up in a fire. And we're not losing the memories. We would not be losing the memories from that spot, but we would be gaining a new form of park that would also be beautiful and from which people could fish.
Edmund, you do
Yeah, I attended the fishing derby and, almost everyone that I spoke to there doesn't live in the village and they are proponents of the dam, which makes me believe that maybe we should vote on this as a council. I know this is a contentious issue, but I think it might be the best way to represent everyone in that. And just, as a personal aside, I grew up and we had the Naples Pier and during Irma, it was knocked down and, ever since that's been gone, it was an icon of our city and town, and I'd hate to see that happen here.
Laura.
So, I think that if we put it to the millage, while that may not capture everyone who would be taxed or that, I think it still would be more than 7 people. And everybody obviously has their strong opinions. But I also am in favor of the millage because I feel like that at least increases the feedback and as well as giving us a funding source for it if it were approved. And yes, it would be a lot of money to spend on it, but people voted to do that and then that's what they're telling us. So I think that, and I agree, there are a lot of people that are outside the village, but I don't, other than all of them somehow letting us know and us then somehow figuring out how we represent that in our votes, at least we're expanding the number of people who can have something to say with their pockets, like with those numbers, because I agree, like there needs to be education happening. And I think that's the best way to do it, because right now it's the same thing. People don't know how much it would be. I mean, they don't understand the costs that are associated with it. There are a few people who do, but not the majority, I don't think.
Yeah, well,
I had to think about what Joe said for a minute, because this goes back and forth, but I've held this position before in that people that are not year-round residents, thus not registered to vote, kind of assume the risk. It's kind of like buying a house down in Mexico. You are powerless to control what the local government is going to do, but you assume that risk when you buy into this, and that's part of the cost of doing business. To have a beautiful house on the lake that you don't want to live in all year round, then you are subject to the people of the village who run the village government, who vote for us. And I do feel at the end of the day, I represent the people that voted for me, not the people who are here for 1 month out of the year and who are probably going to bear the brunt of this cost if it passes. Tough. You bought your house and you don't live here. You're not a part of the community year round. You don't vote here. You are subject to the people who do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that on a philosophical level. So put it on the ballot and let the people who live here year round and who are registered to vote year round and who voted for us decide. And I will accept the decision either way.
No, I agree with what Will said there. I would hope that we could agree to put this on the ballot, that we should also have at some appropriate time a public hearing, a public gathering for folks to ask questions and such about this. Is that fair to hope for?
That's a good idea.
What's supporting something like that? Now, one thing you
I
have to be careful about is the village cannot advocate for or against the village question.
Okay.
However, the village can provide factual information. Now, that can stray into things like fish habitats, various designs for a dam, you name it, it can kind of go all over the place. But just the same, clearly, I think the village has a responsibility to provide factual information related to the village. But not advocating for or against.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, we should only be talking about whether we are for or against the millage, not for or against.
So did I violate?
No, I mean,
Something on the back.
This is.
yeah,
this
that's
is-
what I'm saying, no, I didn't mean for or against the millage, I meant for or against putting it on the ballot, not for or against that millage passing. He didn't do anything wrong, it's kind of gray area, but maybe we should limit our discussion to that. To whether to put it on the ballot or not is really the only issue here, and whether we agree personally with keeping the pond or not, probably shouldn't be part of the discussion.
And that's why I wanted to focus this discussion on that question.
Yeah,
Do you want to proceed with placing the ballot
yeah,
question?
and that's correct, yeah.
And what I'm hearing is yes.
Mhm.
And so the next step is formal action, probably in the form of resolution at the next meeting, if I can get it done in time, to say, here's the ballot question. And I want to review that with our legal counsel,
Of course.
because I've done the legal background work so far, but I need a review.
And then, to me, which ballot is it going on? Because I don't know that it needs to be a special election that costs more, because I know we have to.
Just November was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we got time for that.
I think so.
Well, and I think that's probably cheaper,
It
because I
takes-
know if you are the reason there's a ballot, then obviously it's more than if you're just going on a ballot that's already happening.
Mhm. I agree. Okay, so we'll get that teed up.
Item D is gonna be Citizen of the Year discussion. Will has informally nominated, but discussed Danny McConnell as a potential Citizen of the Year. Somebody did email me and wanted me to nominate somebody, and so at their request, I will put the name out there, whether we choose that person or not, but it was for Josh Rudela for his work here in the DPW and starting the Northport events again, Winter Carnival and the Halloween stuff. Does anybody else have any?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Sarah Eggert. She just did 20 years of business in this village. And she's also been in charge of the dog parade for the last 6 years.
And I had emailed Jared, I should have emailed you nominating Stephen or Tom and Deb Weatherby for running the climbing wall at the school, also for 20-some years.
Would a fair way to do this just be to do a 7-person poll?
That was kind of what I was wondering. Is that-
And then I
just would
can-
be that each person would submit the Citizen of the Year to you,
Yeah.
and then whoever got the most votes would then get the nomination at the next meeting.
So you want to do it the California way and rank, you know?
Yeah,
what-
I could do a quick poll like that and email it so that with these nominations,
Yeah,
you have
So
a
should
few
we-
choices and then I can. Provide that to you.
choices.
okay.
I don't think you can do that through email, because of OEM.
Yeah, it's not,
Or ONA, sorry.
there's no quorum, it's like a one-on-one. It's like I'm asking you, please rank this list, Will, send it back to me, Joe, you see what I'm saying?
The,
It'd be
the,
different if you were asking. if
No,
the councilman
know,
was.
I think no, I disagree with that methodology. I don't think that's transparent. I think that, we should, that's a vote, that's voting.
So what if we,
And I think that violates if not the letter of the law, that violates the spirit of the Open Meetings Act, and I'm vehemently against it.
what if we were to do it the way we did it for our village manager? When the 2 times we had Chet here, we wrote down on a piece of paper and passed it to him, and then that was tabulated that way, so it would occur in the meeting. We could put our names on it, they could be public,
Mhm.
at the end, they could do a roll call, who did you vote for? But at least that way,
Or we could just go one by one and say who our top two are.
Yeah.
Why is everybody afraid to say publicly who they, I mean, we just had nominations. I mean, I don't understand why this has to be like you know,
Well, because there has to
Note
be
passing.
a motion made to nominate somebody for Citizen of the Year.
Yeah. Yeah,
I guess, how do we get to that
Yes,
person?
to
I
that-
mean,
get to that
you
point.
can nominate somebody, I mean, I just.
I think I already did.
Well, yeah, I,
but then we have to, vote on,
Well,
who's got a
Yeah.
solution to this?
the hard part about this, Will, is I like Daniel. I hate to vote against him.
Yeah, right,
And it's like, I think Sarah Eggert is deserving. You'd probably vote against it. It's like, it's just a kind of catch-22 situation.
I see the logistical difficulty of it. I just want to make sure we're staying within the spirit of transparency. That's all.
People are trying to be nice.
I'll go along with whatever you guys want to do, but I'm just, for the record, I want it to be as transparent as possible.
I agree. So,
I'm at a loss.
The other one,
Well, no, I think what we've done in the past, honestly, is the president makes a nomination, and this is where one of the few times the president has a little more power. This is one of the perks. Yeah, that you make the nomination and it's up or down, and you can nominate whoever you want, and then we vote. And if that nomination, if that person doesn't get 4 votes, then, or 3, because you already essentially voted, then you move on to the next, you nominate the next person. So you get to choose who you want to nominate first.
okay,
So of that, and that's your personal decision, and that's within your prerogative.
I did have one other resident text me today, wondering about David Krobeck.
Posthumously.
I also have a question. Has it been typical? Or would it be atypical for us to give Citizen of the Year to someone who doesn't live within the village?
We have in the past.
I think if you look at the names on there, there are people that have lived in the village and the local
Okay.
township, so it's like Northport proper.
I think we have that.
I think Kathy Rudel is on there, I don't think she lived in the village, she was on there, Dr. Colbert.
Okay,
So,
so drum roll, or do you want to?
Kristen, if the president takes on that nomination responsibility, you can think about it between now and when we
Yeah.
finalize the resolution. Let me know, we'll include it in the resolution that comes to the act for action.
Yeah, okay.
and would it be proper for us as individuals to, let Chris know who we,
Sure. okay.
Yeah, you absolutely
Yeah,
can do
Bobby-
that.
Bobby
Just don't
will-
let us
Bobby
know.
will-
right,
Only
Bobby
him.
will-
okay, so.
Yeah.
What are you willing to offer up? for-
Yeah, that, okay, you're joking,
Just kidding. just
the
kidding,
reporters are
everybody.
listening.
Kidding.
So,
All right. I think
Laura,
I
we're
just
done
wanna
with-
say too, that like, I appreciate all of the citizens who have been nominated,
Yeah.
and this is a yearly award, so I feel like bickering over, I mean, I get it, but I just also think that like, if you really favor somebody and it's not the one, they can be next year too, I mean, just put it out
Even
there.
posthumously.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the hardest part is that you don't wanna. Down,
Offend anybody,
exactly,
yeah.
they're all deserving.
Because they all are very deserving, yes.
Okay, so I'll get with Jared about that. Reach out to me individually and,
Okay,
we'll move on to item E, which is the fee schedule. Some updates to that, including the short-term rental fee. Jared has included some items that he thinks that we could increase, some suggested direction on some things, and he's provided what we currently charge for certain things, some comparable examples using some, Oak Rapids, Sutton's Bay, Pentwater, other townships or villages of sort of our size and what they charge. And so, any feedback or discussion on some of those items are, Gloria, you're up first?
Well, I just really want to advocate for reducing the marijuana renewal fee. Mostly because my understanding from Jim prior, when we have worked on these several times in the past, the fee schedule is that we really need to be able to justify the cost, and it absolutely is not justifiable right now with the amount of work for a renewal. So that's one of my main things, and I really appreciate the form that you did and the comparisons, and think it's very helpful.
Where is I don't see anything in that chart.
Writing,
That's not in the table.
Oh.
I just put that in my
So there you go.
background, because for me, that was probably, if there was no other one you were gonna change, I would recommend changing it.
I agree, that is to me,
Or I said,
Also STR though. Those are my 1 and 2, because right now I think 0 is just not reasonable. We do spend considerable time managing that,
What's this?
What do you recommend?
the short-term rental registration.
Right, it says 200, but
renewals.
why not 500?
Because you can't.
Yeah, I don't think that.
Well,
and it has to be
somebody-
justifiable,
Frankfurt bid 500.
it has
Yeah.
to be justifiable for the work that you're putting in though.
But if
And-
Frankfurt charges 500.
They might do more. We don't know what they're
Yeah,
doing.
I-
This is based on what Jared knows in terms of time and hours to process these forms it is taking. And so to me, if that's what he thinks it is, that's what we need to do, because otherwise, if someone says, I wanna sue because I think this is exorbitant, then they're going to win if you can't justify and say where it is. And you don't know what Frankfurt is doing. Their form could be way more complex than ours.
They could have a full-time employee.
yes,
That's all they do,
correct.
is that's Jared, and I think Traverse City, for example, does.
Right.
So that's like a 70 or who knows, and this morning, $90,000 a year job that we don't have. I mean, yeah, we're spending money, but not that kind of money. So I think, yeah,
500 cents.
500 is, I
And-
think is excessive.
Right now, it's been 0 for a very long time, so this is a first step, and if we decide more, if we change the form or we change the process because we decide that's what's going to happen, then the fee schedule's every year. I mean, and you can do it independently of every year too, like if you really needed to, you could adopt and change part of the fee schedule anytime.
Well, I volunteer to do some research and talk to people in Frankfurt about their form and such, because I'd like to see us charge what we can charge.
Well,
Yeah, too, $500 is not a lot. I mean, that's only like a couple nights rent. Maybe initially, it's like pretty high, but I mean, that's
I
like,
agree.
it's 300.
It's a lot. A couple nights here, a couple nights there, and you know,
That's
that's
$365 nights.
Joni and I know, we've been in this business, and also I would like to remind the council how critically important the STR market is to the economy of this town. And doing anything to discourage STRs in places where they don't interfere with attainable housing, i.e. everything within 2 blocks of the water, making it harder for those folks is not good for Northport in any way, shape, or form. We need every single one of those bedrooms filled every single night for 90 to 120 days. And anything we do to discourage that is just taking money away from the downtown business owners and the people that work there, the bartenders, servers, waiters, they get tips. So STRs are not evil. Without them, this place would be a ghost town.
I completely agree with you.
I don't think you do,
I
because
do.
you're wanting to milk these people, and I don't think you should.
I don't think $500 for an STR owner is milking. I do not think so.
I
I
was
think
getting 2,500 a week, that's 20% of, you know, I mean, it's,
but a 1 week,
well, still, that was back in the day, probably 5,000 now.
So back to Laura's point, right? It's a justifiable expense. I would recommend $200. And then 1 year from now, we'll look at the data. How hard did you work? Does it accurately reflect what the cost of the city or the village was? And
yeah,
Can I ask you a question? This number, this was based on how much work you've done in the past year, because he's been doing it.
Yeah.
Like, he's done it for a year.
So this
He
is
knows
already
that-
supported
what-
by data. I don't
Yes.
think we need data from another town that doesn't compare. This is actual data, actual time spent, actual cost analysis, as opposed to something theoretical from Frankfurt. Because they're apples and oranges.
I think if you want to research, you can though, because if they're doing something different that is more helpful or beneficial in the STR process, then that's something we could look at doing. But it's not something we're doing now. So like right now, I don't. What Jared has recommended is what I support, because that's based on the actual things that are happening in our village that our staff is being paid to do.
I also, yeah, I think you're trying to make this a penalty, but it's not. And if it's not linked to I would like to follow the law. And the law states clearly in the case law that it has to be within very tightly to the actual cost. If we can estimate our actual costs, we need to follow the law and not your feeling that you'd like to charge more because you think we can. I don't agree with that philosophy at all. I think that's illegal, frankly.
I'm curious to know what Frankfurt is doing and why it costs them more.
Yeah.
That's what
And that's what I'm saying, like you could research it so that you can find out what they're doing,
Oh, yeah.
but it doesn't affect ours
If
right
we have
now.
actual estimated costs, and Joe's right, or somebody, you could get it with a class action lawsuit. It happened in Acme. And the village, I mean, it ended up being a real pain in the neck for them because they tried to charge too much for STR licenses and they got smacked. And we don't need that. We don't.
But I don't
need
think anyone's
litigation.
trying to overcharge anyone here. I think we just want to see what procedures are done somewhere else and make an assessment. I mean, I agree, 200 is right if Jared is saying so. I'm just sort of curious, like before we make any actions, if there's better procedure.
Yeah, and there's people that only rent for 1 week to cover their water bills or whatever. I mean,
That's a good
it can be 20% at 500. I mean, there's no people. What you're going to do is people are going to say, "Oh, I only rent for 2 weeks. It's $500. I'm just not going to tell them anybody. You know, I'm just going to do it under the table, and then you get nothing." Whereas they're a lot more likely to comply at a reasonable amount. I mean, people are they're just not going to pay it. What's our enforcement? Then you're going to pay somebody in this office to go around and
Well, that
knock on doors.
part of just, I'd like to point out, the $200 fee that we would collect would include staff time, including my.
That's what I mean.
To keep track of who's listing and who's not.
Right.
That was absolutely part of what we did last year.
Yeah.
Ellie did a great job of that. I followed up with it as well. So if somebody decides like, I'm just not gonna pay the registration, part of that $200 is to make sure that we're trying to catch that.
I just want to clarify with what Edwin commented. I think that it's great to research and do more. We've been wanting to do that. I mean, planning has referred STR, for years now. But the fee schedule is something that typically is adopted with the budget. So like the time frame to have it ready. So to me, like if we're doing that, that's fine, but that's like a future discussion and future fee adjustment, not this fee schedule, because this fee schedule we need to have ready for the budget. Which is
Right.
like,
We'll work
right
on it
ahead.
next
I'm just saying, because
2 weeks.
Edwin
right.
just had said that he wanted to wait to determine what the fee would be, right? Didn't you just?
Right, yeah.
Like that he wanted to wait to determine the fee until you
Like,
found
wait
out.
I mean,
with Frankfurt.
yeah, only 2 weeks. I mean, it takes a phone call, just to see what they were doing. If we want to implement more protocols, I mean, this is only our first year of STRs, like regulations, so.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
it's not
We've been doing STR regulation for a very long time. It's just, it's been $0. You
Okay.
have to
It
register.
was
to do it.
25, and then they
Went
stopped,
to
it
zero.
went to nothing, and then I think the staff is on it in a good way now, but I think you can't go from 25 to 0 to all of a sudden 500. People are gonna freak. I mean, 200 is,
200 is the best.
we can bump it up $100 next year if we, the more people that don't pay it, then the more you spend on enforcement.
When's the deadline for this? When do we have to
So
get this done by?
we'll vote on it in 2 weeks. Right.
I'd like to,
Yeah,
I'd like to
yeah.
have this at the next regular meeting for action.
Aren't people turning in their stuff now though? I mean, what are you charging today?
0 today.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a rush to Village Hall.
Yeah.
Go register now while it's free, because in 2 weeks it's gonna be $200.
So the
Uh,
fee would start, if we approve it in 2 weeks, wouldn't start at the beginning of next year.
Oh, okay.
Beginning of the fiscal.
So it's gonna be free this summer no matter what?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I don't wanna.
Well, we better get on that.
Well, there is, if people don't register though, and then they discover that they're doing it and then they don't immediately register, there is a lot of penalties written in. Like, it starts to get expensive if you do continue to ignore his enforcement.
Okay.
And he has been doing it, like, he reports it at planning and like
Yeah.
every month.
We
So-
still have this issue where you have till the end of the year to register. The deadline for registration of April 30 will go into effect in 2027.
Yeah.
Anything else on any of the other, suggested?
I will just say that I support the increases, because I think that the fee schedule needs to reflect the actual time being spent, and I presume that Jared has reviewed, that's what all these are based on, and so I think that that's a really good thing to be doing. I also really support, any of the ones that have the escrow option, because that's been something that in the past, there have been situations where people absolutely were not covering all of those costs because that wasn't written in. And we want to be aware and cautious of that and try to be sure that that isn't happening in the future, because any big projects that come our way, we do not want taxpayers to be helping cover their application fees and meetings and everything else.
Okay. All right, so we'll see this on the agenda at next, in 2 weeks for approval. All right, brings us to our next item, which is F, the Leelanau Community Energy Site Lease Agreements. Yeah. So, have you heard anything back from them since your, no? Okay.
No, it was, as I mentioned, March 10th, I met with Doug, Tom, and they seemed committed to removing the monopoles. I said, great. If you commit to that and you've got a plan, I think the council would look favorably upon at least considering replacing that with some solar use. But not until you gotta do, that's the first step. And what's May 7th? I haven't heard back. I followed up with email. So I just think it's time.
So that is an answer.
Fun. Right.
Them not responding is an answer.
No answer. Yeah. So I just think it's time. You know, we followed the steps. I reviewed it with Ross before, you know, we switched our legal counsel. He provided us the memo explaining the steps. We given them the 30-day notice to cure, which has been years now.
Mhm.
That was just the formal 30-day notice, right?
Right.
And you know, unfortunately, it's got to come down somehow. And you know, that's the next question: is, you know, do you want to try and compel them somehow? I don't know.
We really have to, aren't we?
But I think, well, we got to do something with the pole, right?
Mhm.
Or else should the village pay for removal? But the first step is to, I think, just terminate the lease agreement so that they don't have any right to access it, extinguish all that.
Remind me, they have no money, right?
Very little, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not $50,000 to remove it.
I just feel like there would be a metal scrapper out there who would, you know, once it was on the ground, they would cut it up and haul it away for the cost of steel.
I've heard that.
But no.
Well, I mean,
I don't know how you find it.
there's one way to do it. Just cut it down, right? Timber.
I was just,
I'm not sure.
loosen the bolts on one side, and that way you know which way it's gonna fall.
Right. And there's really nothing around that it's
No.
gonna damage. It seems
That would be fun.
Sounds like an hobby.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
We sell tickets.
I'm not sure if that's OSHA approved.
If nobody gets hurt.
Did we ever get the money back from them? Like
No.
the rest?
No.
No.
Okay,
Okay.
we're never getting.
No.
We never will.
Yeah. There was $12,000 that was in the escrow that
You
was
can thank Jim Dyer for that one too.
given back, but it's 12,000 out of 50,000 roughly for removal. So
Yeah, it wasn't enough money.
yeah.
I mean,
It was-
Well, I'm wondering if we're gonna ask them to cut it down, at least
I
maybe we
just
get that back
ridiculous
to
to-
something, you know, because they.
So it sounds like there's some consensus to proceed with, you know, termination of the site lease agreement and we'll move forward from there. Okay. So next meeting, we'll have something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and then the last item on our discussion is the work session meeting time. Laura had emailed myself and Jared and wanted to have this on the agenda regarding the 2 p.m. time. And
Right.
I'll let you take it from
Okay.
there.
So I know that we've had this discussion not so long ago, and so I don't want to be like beating a dead horse, but I do, when we've talked about it before, it was moving it to the 7 p.m. time. And I know that people are not in favor of that. I still have, like, for example, there are not year-round locals who I do know wanted to be at this meeting, who are at work right now and could not be at this meeting. I wanted to just throw it out there if there was any willingness to even move it to 4 o'clock instead of 2 o'clock, so that it's closer to the end of people's work days and maybe they just leave a little early, or 5 o'clock instead of the 7. But I just wanted people to consider, because I do know there are a lot of issues that, that locals are very interested in being a part of. They can watch the recording later, but that is not the same because they can't give us their feedback in the meeting. And I just would like to see people consider, because I am someone who's very active in the school and a lot of the parents, I just know there's a lot of people that are interested in attending and just not able to regularly make that happen. And I would like to voice that for them, that there is interest to see, even if we just shift it some so that it's closer to a time that they might be able to make it work easier.
Yes, Susan?
If that's the point, why not move it to 5? I mean,
Right,
that
and I
makes it
think
much
it's just
easier.
because nobody wanted to move, I was the only one who wanted to move it last time and everybody said no,
I'm
so
willing
that's
to
why.
move it.
Oh,
I would like to 7, but I'll support
I
5.
can do 4 or 5. I don't know.
4 or 5.
I think if people are willing for 5, I think that is better. I just,
All I was gonna say is township does theirs at 5:30 and they're poorly attended too, so. It's,
Well,
would we be better off at 7? I don't know.
I'm not doing 7 in summertime.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons, I mean, I could be wrong, but I thought one of the reasons we had the 2 p.m. time was so that it was more amicable to our staff who are here. Rather than, and I realize it's one day a month, but they have the 7 o'clock meeting, which can be short, but I thought that was part of the discussion.
well, in which case is 4 a little better then? I mean, because then that's not cutting in as far.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
yeah.
Because I have been told that people would appreciate 4 if that was the compromise, because at least then they could just leave work an hour early
Mhm.
and be zooming it while they're driving home and at least be able to catch the end of it or whatever. In person for a
I'm
month.
fine with
Let's
4.
shoot for
so-
4.
Yeah.
Would we want to move both meeting times to 4? Would that make it even?
I don't think so, because people want the 7, because that works
Yeah.
really well, and because it's the shorter meeting now, I feel like, and that's part of the frustration, so some of the locals are like, they wish we would flip flop entirely, but because all the discussion is happening at the one they can't come. Anyway, so that's why I just wanna,
Let's shoot for 4.
yeah,
I will point out though that they can view the meetings. And they
Yes.
can still, they
And-
can make a 5-minute public comment, but they can certainly reach out to council members with.
And
input,
I understood
but
that.
I have
So-
received very little of that. I'll say that personally, I would really be interested in how many people we would actually gain.
Well,
Just,
Let's try it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair enough.
all right, we don't have to vote on this.
no, we got the next meeting.
The rules.
Is that okay, Joni? Is
So
that
we're
better?
just-
another rules and procedure.
Okay.
I think that's like the 5th since I've been here.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to our second public comments. Members of the public, there are none here in person, so if anyone on Zoom wants to make a public comment up to 5 minutes, you can do so now. Please state your name and address for the record. If you want to unmute yourself, I don't see any faces, so I can't see if you've raised your hand or not.
Just small.
Hey, Chris, John Weber here.
Yeah, John, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I'll start feedback. I'm gonna touch on a bunch of different subjects that you guys covered, and I kind of follow the agenda. You guys were talking about the brush pickup. First off, I want to give a shout out to Chris Holden and the DPW crew. I don't know if they get recognized much in the village council meetings, but they did a heck of a job over the winter with the storms we've had and the rain and, hustling. And the reason the village looks as good as it does is largely in part for the sweat equity that they put into it. And so, tip of the hat, acknowledgement for them. But for the brush pickup, maybe we help offload some of the work for them, and during the June, July, August months, we move to a semi-monthly pickup. I don't know how much time it takes, but I imagine crawling all the streets within the village to pick that stuff up cuts in significantly to their time that could be applied to other projects. Obviously in May, September, and beyond, we start having more down stuff. And obviously that could be, exceptions could be made for severe events, weather events or whatever, but maybe consider going from a weekly to a semi-monthly pickup on that. Let's see, where do I go? Let's talk about the dam and the millage. You guys talk about putting a millage proposal out there for a vote. And the way it comes across to me is we're keeping the dam and we want you to pay for it. But the real question is, does the village want to keep the dam in place? I know you've done the due diligence, cost benefit analysis around replacing the dam or repairing or replacing. I don't know if the same amount of energy and time and investment has been put into the cost benefit of removal. But I think the real question is, and you guys are stewards for our village, and the real question is, do we want to keep it? And I think one of the deciding factors there is financially, what's the impact on the village? You come down to it, people are going to vote with their pocketbook, their wallets. And so no matter which direction the village takes, there are going to be people that are upset, unhappy with the end result. Hugh Cook mentioned he has a strong connection. He's been here, longer than most of the trees. Just joking, but there's that connection to the history, but there are also others that are leaning more towards a more natural setting. And so I think my opinion is you're asking the wrong question. Regardless of what goes on there, the wording of the millage proposal is very, very important. And it can be phrased such that there's a bias one way or another. And so as it's put out there, the phrasing should be neutral and should be accompanied with information on both sides of that argument. Personally, I'm kind of like Mr. Harper is, I can go either way. But the bottom line, I think that's going to decide for a lot of people is how much are you taking out of my pocket? 2 years ago, the vandalism on the dam, and that's what you called it to us, and some are calling it accidental drawdown, but whatever it was a huge sign that the village needed to take action and start addressing and saving some money to take some action either way, whether it's removal or not. There are grant monies out there that I understand for dam removal, and that most likely those monies will disappear soon if the same pattern that we've seen from the Trump administration continues. These protection.
5 minutes is interruptive. Appreciate the comments.
Well, let me just okay. Just one thing. Scrap the Citizen of the Year. We don't need that. If you want to recognize people, go ahead and do that with planting a tree. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Barbara Weber, my camera's broken, so I don't know if you can see my hand.
I can hear you.
Okay.
No, but go ahead.
Barbara Weber, yes, I'm related to John. The end of South Shore Drive. My comment is about the dam. The dam originated when they were doing logging, and it was put in to keep the pond so they could wash the logs. Well, that is obsolete many, many moons ago. And it is time to remove the dam and open up the trout stream. the Michigan designated Type A trout stream, and it should be with pride that Northport would restore the trout stream. I was pleased that the Watershed Center was there to speak to this, as well as Conservation Resource Alliance. They are wonderful resources for dam removal, as well as Brett Fessel, who is a river ecologist with the tribe. Taking dams out has gone on really recently. In the last 2 years, it's increased. We're not taking anything away. We're adding a running creek with fish that survive. We're not going to put in hybrid trout that do not survive. The trout will procreate, and it will all end up into the Great Lakes. And for that reason, I support removal. I am disappointed that as stewards, you could not go forward with the science and the knowledge that there are funds available. We do not have to tap into the millage to keep a dam going. Excellent article in today's New York Times, and they refer to all the dinky dams. And I thought, we might be called a dinky dam, and we need to think about that. I think the important thing is we restore the creek. We allow that to run through. It could be the jewel of Northport. And the people that live on the creek will still have their riparian rights, only it will be running, flowing water. I do not support this going on to the millage. If you prefer to go forward, then I really expect an educational seminar for the village to go on, whether it's League of Women Voters, somebody to put this on. So they get option 1, they want the algae pond, or option 2, they want the free-flowing trout stream. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Any other public comments? Mary has
Go with
or
Mary.
Vicky.
I'll turn mine off. Go ahead, Mary. I'll be
Okay.
next.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Mary Cermak Betzold, and I have a home on 10540 North Shore Drive. And Jared, I have to correct you. I turned in my STR in January and already have gotten a confirmation of it, if you'll remember. Number 2, Will Harper, I absolutely agree with what you said about the housing on 7th Street. You're in a conundrum between wanting people to rent and wanting people to own homes. If you want the village to grow, you need people who will be vested in the community, who will send their kids to school, who will attend the churches, who will shop in town. And I think you need homes, and the homes need to be separated from the rentals. If the rentals are run by a company and they're mowing the lawn and taking care of the outside facilities next to private homes, you might run into a problem there with, where's the line? Do I mow my lawn to here? And are the apartment people taking care? So I like the idea on High Street of having the apartments. They're close to town, they're walkable. Well, so is 7th Street. But I really feel that if you're going to build homes, build single family homes to attract somebody that will become and work in the community and be a member of the community. Number 3, leave the woods alone. Nobody needs to be tramping through those woods. We have so many beautiful public trails in Leelanau County out at the lighthouse that people can hike over to the lake. The woods, you'll go from one end of the woods and run back to the other end. And you'll also be interfering with the people who, if they have a home there or apartments, you'll be walking through their front yards. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Vicky, did you want to go ahead next?
Sure, why not? Vicky Slot, 10160 North Shore Drive. So I kind of liked some of the approaches. You had a lot on the agenda, and so I'll just comment on a few things. The brush pickup is something that personally I really appreciate. I see my tax dollars at work. And if there's any way we can make it easier for the people doing it, I'm really open to, making that as easy as possible. But just want to say it is really appreciated and very unique to the village. So I see it as a wonderful, unique. I don't know how anyone else sees it. As far as the dam, Barbara made a strong case, and I have to say, I was supportive either way. I'm definitely not for a vote on a millage. That's super unaffordable. And I hope that we could go with some education and offer people a plan 1 or plan 2, because there's a possibility that putting it out as a millage, people will think that it's sort of what is perceived as the best course of action. So that's where I am on the dam. On the housing, you know where I stand on the housing. I appreciated Will's comments, and there is research to back the statements that I made in my letter. I think that a combination of ownership and rental in that area is not appropriate, and Mary made some good rationales. I still feel it's a bit of spot zoning in the village in general to kind of go with what I see as a niche. And I have heard from Jared, fit with the surrounding homes was what he said was a key priority. And so I really ask you to make it a fit with the homes. And Will, like I said, presented it well. He wasn't supported. And one of the things is, Susan, you said people keep coming up and saying they want rental. And yet what I recall from that May of 2024 community survey you did, which I didn't ever get a copy of it, by the way, so I don't know I don't know why that was. Maybe it didn't go out to people who didn't have houses. We had the lots at the time, but with housing, yes, people wanted affordable housing. That was their first pick. But when the types of housing were listed, private homes were listed way beyond apartments. So, that's a bit, I don't know what, and the other issue is, what was that needs assessment? I don't quite recall how many rentals they thought we needed, so that if those apartments do go through up on Mill Street, it is, that would possibly fulfill that need. Anyway, that's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comments?
Aliens.
Yeah.
So
We're just gonna be people because we got some feedback, and if there is no other public comments, if there's no other takers, any council comments? Laura?
The public comment about apartments. I acknowledge that everybody has different realities and different aspects and things that they are aware of. I personally, as someone with 3 children in our school, and very aware and actively working to try and improve our enrollment. Last year, we lost 6 families because their rentals were no longer going to be rentals and were either going up for sale or becoming an STR or, whatever the reasons are. I realized there wasn't a single family home available that was attainable for them to purchase. And if that was, maybe it would change things for them. But I personally know some of those families, and that would not have been an option. They need a rental. So, rentals are families as well. It is not just single people working, 20-year-olds. It's not just retirees. Families need rentals too. Everything is too expensive. Everything. But we are here. We are part of the community. I really think that it is important to remember that just because they aren't here right now doesn't mean that they don't want to be. Like, that is an area that we are lacking, and if we do that, provides the availability for those families to be here still. So I understand that people have different perspectives and are coming from different places, but that doesn't mean that what I'm saying isn't true. Thank you.
Susan?
I just could ask, Laura, were those 6 rentals that ended for those families, were those in the town of Northport?
They all attended the school, some were in the township,
Yeah.
but there were at least 2 of them I know are definitely in the limits, and one of them was going to someone else that
Okay.
was renting, and one was going up for sale. So I
Yeah.
mean, like, they can't,
I mean, I couldn't count 6 rentals in the village. I mean, we just had no rentals. We have virtually no rentals. So I tend to agree with you.
I'm renting a house. I have a house on Ransom Street that's rented to a couple. I mean, for way too little money, apparently.
I'll keep it very quick. I know everyone wants to keep going. On 7th Street, I've heard from citizens who are legal professionals that there may be some issues, and I know that we've had a review in the past. But you know, as not being a legal professional, they've explained to me that there are some potential issues, and I think it's in our best interest to use our new legal group to assure that there isn't any potential issues, lawsuit in the future.
Okay. I don't know anything. If we're all good, I'll make a motion to adjourn at 4:07.
Yes.
4:05,
Second.
Okay.
Closed session.
Oh, you have to go to township now?
no,
Well,
that
we
is.
finished that off.
We're adjourned.
Because he didn't get any
Yeah.
responses.
Oh my God, I feel so
okay.
cute. Make sure my heart goes.
Oh, there's